once you share, you can delete them.
Okay. All right. So we are going to right now, if I delete, woo. Uh-oh, everything's gone. Okay. Yeah, I put 4, I think, initially here. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna remove the reset. The functionality will be removed. We're gonna implement it ourselves. Handle reset, or I will just comment it out if that's okay.
Yep.
Add counter, I will comment it out. Handle delete, handle reset. And there should be reset all.
Mm-hmm.
And add counter. Okay, perfect. So we have delete and this stuff. Okay, now if I click on reset, yep, it's gonna throw error.
I'm trying to understand. Did you use a functional component to build this project? Did Said use that one, or is it like class component?
Oh,
I see. Just state. Okay, it's a class component.
There's this should be, yeah, it's a class component.
Okay.
But I don't have any states in here for this class itself. I am even in this add counter directly. For example, you see this add counter, yeah, right? On click, I am bringing it from the app class. Right here, handle add counter, and I'm manipulating the state of this app class by adding the counter here. How do we add counter? Now we're gonna go over it very quickly. So right now, this reset all, it's gonna throw error probably. No, okay, so the functionalities I commented out: reset all, add counter, and reset for individual ones. Yeah. But the UI part, we don't have to touch it. It's okay. Yeah, it's just adding them to the UI. I mean, this one, like he already added these 4 for us, and I just added this one for each one of them. That's it.
Yeah.
The UI part, we don't have to. It's just the functional part. So from the logical standpoint, like when he's asking to reset, so this one, when we click on reset, we want to make sure that it becomes 0 without decreasing 1 at a time. Yeah. So for that, what did I do? So there's a handle reset function. On click of on reset, it's going to counters class should be, here's the counters class, and there should be reset. Yes, on reset in the counters class, there's a button. On click, I'm just calling that reset, and then passing the ID of this counter. Do you guys all understand about this counter? Why I'm passing this counter and its ID? Where is this coming from?
Counter is coming from the state.
Yeah, here, right? Counters. It's an array that has 4 different objects. And we're just looping over this by using the map function. We're just mapping over this and printing out their values here inside this first box. So right now, everything is 0. So if I change this second one, for example, here to 2, and then save it, yeah, as you can see, this is changing to 2. If I change this one to 1, there you go, we see 1. So what we're doing is every time when I click one of these reset buttons, it's taking any of these objects because when we are mapping right here over that counter's state, it's taking one object at a time. And we can manipulate that object by its ID, because IDs are unique for each one of them. So if we just pass the ID, then in our on reset function, we can just loop over this array of objects, identify the object by its ID, right?
Yeah.
And then just change its value to 0.
Initial value.
Yeah. So, for example, let's implement that here. The function name should be handle reset. For each one of them, reset, yeah? So let's do this as well. The buttons are getting their names from here, so I'll just change that to reset. So for each one of them, we will reset their values. So handle reset. And now, what am I expecting here?
Counter.
Counter.id, right?
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, let's just do counter ID. So this is the parameter that, this is the argument which it's expecting. So by using this ID which is being passed, now we just need to loop over these counters. And if we find that ID, for example, we're passing this ID to, then I just need to set if its value is 3, right? As you can see, 3. I need to find it, and when I click on reset, I want to change it to 0. So the value should become 0. And how can I do that?
I think this set state.
This dot set state.
But how about ID?
Yeah. So the first one, my way is I want to remember he said always create a shallow copy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to create a copy of the existing state first. So to do that, for example, counters copy, and since it's an array, the shallow copy happens by using spread operator, right? Yeah. This dot state dot counters. Okay, now I have the copy of this counters, and I need to search for this. For example, if I'm clicking this, I need to search for this ID. And when it's equal to this, I want to change its value to 0. How can I do that?
We can filter.
Yeah, we can filter. And filter is going to return us
an array.
An array, right? Yeah. So what if we so that's going to return us an array, but we don't want array, right? We want we just need to find the index of the object by its ID. So that since it's an array, so when you are changing something in an array, this is what we do, right? So for example, if we have, let me do this, spec, and in the console, let's bring this down. So if we have let array is equal to 1, 2, 3, and console.log array, we have 1, 2, 3. If I want to change this 2 to 5, how can I do that?
Just reassign.
Yeah,
Yeah, just the array,
and then by index, which is 1, yeah, equal to 5. Yep. And now if I console log array, it is going to print out. Yeah. So the same. Why? I know you guys don't see this, but it keeps popping up. I don't know how to change that.
Yeah, I know. I always get the
remove
same
this.
issue.
Let
Yeah.
me.
Maybe it's possible to
Oh,
move it to the side.
yeah. I moved to the other screen.
Okay.
Okay. So the same thing here. What I want to do is, for example, I want to. Oops. What I want to be able to do is counters copy, and then I want to say what index object I want to change. For example, I want to change the value of index 2, which is 1, 2, 3. So this is the one, right? And I want to change its value to 0, right? Now, once I do that, if I, for example, even set the counters to counter copy.
This state.
Yeah. So when I click handle reset, and if I click any of the handle resets, I think it should work. So let's do this. See, it's finding the element at index 2, even though I'm clicking this one. Look, let me decrease. Even though I'm clicking on the first one, it's going to reset this to 0. See, why? Because I am accessing that object and changing its value to 0. So that's what I want to be able to do. And in order to do that, I need to find the counter ID that I'm passing here, right? Is passing the ID of the counter. And since I'm passing that, what I can do is I can just find its index is equal to, or counter index is equal to counters copy dot index of counter ID. Does this make sense? So the counter ID that I'm passing here, counters ID, by using the ID here, I will be now able to find the index of this object inside my array. The index of method, it returns the index of first occurrence of a value in an array, right? And if it doesn't find it, -1. It's going to return -1 if it doesn't find it. So that's what I'm gonna use. And now, since I already have, so let's console log this. And for example, print out the counter index. Here is the index of object you clicked. And I think if we open this, we should see I clicked -1. If I click this, -1, -1.
So it's not getting the index of the counter ID.
Okay, what if we pass here just the counter? We should still, yeah, now it should work. Yes,
Okay.
right? Now it's working. So this should return. So index what? The first one, 0, right?
Mhm.
0. And this should be 3.
Mhm.
3. Okay. Now, by using this index, I can now update the value for this whatever the object is. I can update its value. So counters, copy, and then counter index, the one that we found. I want to change its value to 0.
Huh.
And once I change its value to 0, then I want to make that array the new array for my state, which is the counters inside the state. I want to assign that.
Assign the
now,
changes. Yeah.
Yeah. So now if I do this, if I click on reset, it's setting it to 0. This one, setting it to 0.
Wow.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right? So it looks like I implemented the first time in a different way. Oh, cool. Okay. So the other time, it looks like I used map.
Mhm.
So this will also work. But that time I don't have to use the ID. So if I comment this out, and if I use this handle reset, and this time I need to counter. So I'm passing the counter, which is still fine. Now, what I'm going to do is counter that. I'll just do counter and counter.id. Okay, it's gonna be counter selected, counter selected.id. Yeah, now it should be good. So what I'm doing here is this time I'm still passing the counter itself, but now I'm using a map. So this is my shallow copy. It's not even the shallow copy, right? Const counters and this state that, so, okay. Oh, this might not be very good, by the way. I am directly manipulating the state.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, see, I'm directly playing with the state. No, not really.
No, not really.
Because,
no.
yeah,
You have
because I'm
one
creating a new array by looping over my state by using map. I'm going over it, and as soon as I see the counter ID, which is equal to my selected object's ID, then I'm setting that counter's ID to 0, and then just returning it, and setting it back to itself.
Yeah, because
so,
the names match. Yeah, it's just like counters.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. I will leave a comment for myself here. Function handles the reset button for each counter by using map. Okay, so I will just leave this one, the active one. Any questions about this part?
What if we didn't have IDs inside the state ID?
Then it would be more like using target, right?
Yeah. Then if we didn't have IDs, then we would we can just do counter here, you know.
But you still need IDs, right? Because it's like somehow you have to identify each item, like each counter.
No, because these are individual objects, right? So
Yeah.
basically, they are different elements, even though they have, for example, the same property with the same value. Since they are in the array, which is a collection of data, since they are in separate objects, they will still be independent elements. Yeah. So we would still be able to update its value by the index again.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because it already has index, right? And it doesn't need a.
Yeah, if it's just going to be very how would we identify if we pass that? We could look for the object with that. So that's exactly the question that I was trying to ask Saeed last time, you know. Remember when I asked him like the index of how does it identify which counter is it, right? And then he said and then we weren't sure. So when I Googled, it said the index of can identify the object, right? Only after mapping. So let's, for example, if we do this right now, copy that and bring it here. Let obj is equal to this, and I put this. And if I say, for example, console.log obj.index of and I put the second one here, we'll see this and this and this, it's showing -1.
It's undefined.
So it's not working, right? Like,
yeah. So if I map over this array and then try to find it, so object.map, right? And then I say 1. So
maybe because reset is inside of the same button, like technically they share, right, the same how you call it, like not a parent element, but if you compare like the indexes of reset with the indexes of the counter itself,
maybe, yeah.
Because each time when you create like a new counter, it has a reset button, right? And they're kind of like all in the same list. So maybe you can kind of use that list like index and try to compare. I don't know.
that could be, that might be, yeah. I really don't know, you know. It just said if you use if you map over it and then find it, it should find it. So I don't know, let's try to, since we are already mapping over this, I don't know if it's going to work. Index of, for example, a counter. It doesn't want to identify the counter. And if we do this, oh, it did it.
Yeah. So okay, so we have
See?
an empty
Now
array.
it's printing 0, 1, 2, 3. So what we can do is, if I do this, I can type it here. Here is the indices.
Oh, in plural
And-
is indices, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Get that
And
up.
now see 0, 1, 2, 3. So it will. So first time with this way, even though this was the actual object inside this object array, it returned -1 because it didn't find it. But then when you actually mapping over the array and then use the index of, it works. So my understanding is when you are mapping over it, it creates some kind of unique ID to each object inside the array, like a unique identifier to it and assigns to it, you know?
Yeah.
Otherwise, this should have worked also. Since that's not working, because what if, since the problem is array can contain duplicate elements, right? So
Yeah.
we could have, for example, it could be a case like this, where what if we had ID 2 and value 0? There are 2 of them, you know? So in this kind of case, even though they are the same, but for array, they are different objects, different elements, even though they have the same ID, same value. So maybe because of that, they don't find it when we look for it this way. And it will only identify it when we are mapping over it and then trying to find its index. That could be the reason. I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, so now this is working. Like I said, any questions so far? And our delete, it's working because it was working last time, yeah?
Yeah.
So now let's get back to, for example, reset all.
So the delete basically works the same way, right? It takes the ID, and then if it's the same, then it deletes the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yep, right here. It filters over the state, and if it will filter everything where the ID is not equal to what you are passing.
Ah, okay.
If the ID is equal, then it will skip. So 1, 2, 3. So for example, you're trying to get rid of this. Since you have the ID of this, you will just skip this one. And then you will go 1, 2, 3. And then you will skip this one. So that will be your new array.
Ah, okay. I see. Yeah.
Yeah,
now
that's why we're using, not equal to.
Yep.
And we also could use it for reset, right?
For reset, no. Because for reset, what we want to do is we want to be able to access one item. So whichever the item we're trying to, these rows are one object, right? So we need to identify the object that we are trying to change. If, for example, we find this object, then I want to be able to go into this object, access it, and update its value, and put that back to my state. So when it re-renders, since state change forces re-rendering, it will render with the new updated value. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right?
A little complex.
I don't know when I'm gonna be on that level as you.
No, it's
I'm just listening. But you're explaining very well.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do you I mean, if you want, you can take control over this and rewrite this function to understand it better if you want to. You want to do that? It's fine. It's not a paid time or anything. We're just sitting and trying to practice So it's up to you. You want to take over and try to implement it yourself and show it to us, it's fine. We can keep its copy above like this, so you can watch and do and try to, as long as you understand the logic here, that should be good, you know?
Yeah, okay, I think we can do it later. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. It looks like this is ending meeting because of the time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I will, yeah, create another again.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
And